Namah Pranavartaya, Shuddha Jnanaika Murtaye, Nirmalaya Prashantaya, Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Aham Swarupena Samasta Jantor Vibhantam, Antarvibhum Aprameyam, Gurum Gurunam Ajamadi Devam, Vandamahe Shri Ramanam Dayabhim. My pranams. We will continue with our study of Devi Kalottaram, this extraordinary Advaita Grantham taught to Parvati Devi by Ishvara himself, and also the exquisite translation of Bhagavan of each of these verses. I will begin from where we stopped last time, a brief recapitulation. Ishvara says, talking about the glory of stilling the mind, the effect of stilling the mind. He talks about it and he says, Avandane nan muhadam achivanam malum avan devargon guhanumavan avandan akila surar gurubum avan ma yogi akila tapodananum maam Pandidanum ma purushan paramartha peru kondavanum annavane urungal mandi ural vayu samam chittam valittu Yavanal Nichalama Irutta Petidumam. The last sentence is the one with which we have to begin to understand these two verses. Whoever has this capability to control the mind, which is like Mandi Ural, means like a whirlwind, which keeps on moving in all directions with force. And whoever is able to control a mind which is like this Vayu, which is like this wind, whoever is able to do that, he is divine. So he gives all these things. He is Brahma, he is Shiva, he is Vishnu, and he is Indra, and he is also Lord Subramanya. Avandan Akila Surar Guruvum, he is Brihaspati, he is Mahayogi, he is a Mahayogi. All these things he gives. Akila Tapodananuma, he says. And then he continues, Pandidanum, Mahapurushan, Paramartha Peru Kondavanam, Andavane. He is the one who has reached the goal. And he is the great Purusha, Mahapurusha. All these things are applicable to a person who is able to control the mind, which is uncontrollable. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna uses the same thing. He says, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna Pramati Balavat Dridham. Pramati means something which is turbulent, which is not possible to really control and assess. Turbulent. Pramati Dridham Balavat Dridham. Tasyaham Manye Nigraham. I don't consider it is possible for me to really catch hold of this mind. See, so he says the same comparison he gives. Tasyaham nikraham manye vayoriva sudushkritam. Like this wind which is not possible to control, the mind is also not possible to control. I have not been able to figure out how to do this, Krishna, he says. And Lord's answer to this, Krishna's answer to this is quite an endearing answer he gives. He says, Asamshayam Mahabaho. Lord Krishna says, I agree with you, Arjuna. Doubtless, it is impossible to control. So when your mentor agrees with you, half your burden goes away. So here Krishna says, yes, I agree with you. It is very difficult to control the mind. But abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate, he says. There are two methods to use in order to control the mind. Vairagyam and abhyasam. Vairagyam is non-detached, non-attachment to any object. It is quite a detachment to the objects. And abhyasam is practice. Talking about this, Bhagavan says, there are two forces which help each other. One is a force where the mind is not allowed to go out. That is vairagyam. When you see that the mind does not go out and catch hold of an external object, that is vairagyam. And the mind that has been kept in its place, if it is pulled into the heart, that is abhyasam, that is the practice. So you don't allow the mind to go out, but at the same time, pull the mind inwards and then keep it in the heart. So with these two forces acting in tandem, you will be able to achieve. And then achieve this in a very gradual manner. He says, Shanaihi, Shanaihi, Uparamet. There's no need to really be in a hurry, great hurry. Do it gradually. It all depends upon how comfortable you are in controlling the mind. Don't confront the mind. That's the message. Don't confront the mind. Shanaihi, Shanaihi, Uparamet. Entice the mind. Buddhya, Dhriti, Grihitaya. Using your power of wisdom, gradually bring it under control. Buddhya, Dhriti, Grihitaya. Atma samstam manakritva na kinchidapi chintayet, he says. Keep the mind in the heart in a gradual manner without any force being applied. No force works in the mind. So that is the message. Do it gradually, do it comfortably, do it in a relaxed manner. Don't do it with great force. And I have to suppress the mind. Suppressing of the mind will not work at all. And then Ishvara continued. This is what we saw last time, and we stopped there. And I will continue. I will repeat it once again. Lord Shiva says, Adudane muktikki ubayamahum. What is the means by which you can get mukti? That means is stilling the mind. So he is still talking about the mind. You become divine if you are able to control the mind. And this is the greatest of means to reach mukti. He says, Adudane muktikki upayamahum. Aduve sadhupayarsar gunamamtanam. It's a great habit to cultivate, great quality to cultivate. Aduve prajnai. When you make the mind still, that itself is consciousness. As we saw, mind is not an entity. Mind is recognized only in its motion. When it moves, when consciousness moves, it is called as mind. Vritti is nothing but a movement in consciousness. So when you are able to stop the mind, that itself becomes consciousness. So he says here, prajnai, aduve prajnai, sthiratanmai, that is the firmness, sthiratanmai, pinnum aduve dharmam vivekiyarkittan. This is the dharmam for all the vivekis, swadharmam. Bhagavan says, swadharmam actually means atma dharmam. In Bhagavad Gita, there is a place where Krishna says, Swadharme nidhanam shreyaha. What is going to be good for you is to stick to your own dharma, swadharmam. And Bhagavan's interpretation is, Atma dharmam is swadharmam. Paradharme bhaya, paradharmo bhayavaha, says Krishna. And Bhagavan's interpretation of paradharmam is, normally it is interpreted as some other religion. Don't leave your religion, go to some other religion. Stick to your religion. That is the normal interpretation. But Bhagavan says, Swadharmam is Atma Dharmam and Paradharmam is Anatma Dharmam. So it is universal. It is not switching from one religion or one margam to another margam. Sticking to Atma Dharmam alone is going to bring you the Shreyas. That's what he means. Anyway, coming back here, Aduve dharmam vivekiyarkumtan. All the vivekis, they should have this as the dharma. The dharma is stilling the mind. So go after it. Nothing else is important. Aduve naral tirtham. It is visiting all the holy waters, pilgrimage to holy waters, going to Ganges and going to all other rivers and lakes and other things. All that is equivalent to mind getting stilled. Aduveyam danam. Charity is only that. Aduve tapamahum. That only is tapas or austerity. Aham apetakam nija vibhanakam mahadidam tapo ramanavagyam. This is the greatest of tapas, says Bhagavan as the last verse in Upadesha Saram. What is that? That is aham apetakam, egolessness, aham, which is totally removed. That alone, that egoless state alone is the greatest of tapas, he says. Same thing he says here. Aduve tapamahum. Ayyam idil illai. Don't have to have any doubt about this, he says. Ev upayattinale, by which means Vayubil chalana ivvulam kattupadumo yen. Whatever means that you want to use it. But see to it that the mind is quelled, mind is made tranquil, and because that is going to lead you, that only that will lead you to the final goal of being released from this samsara. So in the very next verse, he talks about samsara. Ishvara says, Chitte chalati samsaro. This is the 10th verse, today's verse. Chitte chalati samsaro nischale moksha evatu tasmat chittam sthiram kuryat prajnaya paraya buddha chitte chalati samsaro. Ishvara says, it is because of chittam, the movement of chittam, that samsaram starts being active. Nischale moksha evatu. When the mind is brought to the stillness, state of stillness, nischalam, nischala tattvam, says in Bhadagovindam, Adi Shankara says this in Bhadagovindam, nischala tattve jivan mukti, nischale moksha evatu, says Ishvara. Tasmat, because of this, chittam sthiram kuryat, bring your mind to the state of stillness. Prajnaya, this is the most important key operative word. Prajnaya paraya buddha. I will come to that and I will see the exquisite translation of Bhagavan here. Chittam sirid asayas samsaram. The tiny movement, even the tiniest movement of the mind starts off a big samsara. One thought begins, and if you are not alert enough, that leads to another thought, that leads to, before you know what's happening, you have really created a big world. Suddenly you realize, what is it that I am thinking about? So the mind has the capability to just spread itself all over and lead, one thought leads to the other. So whole chain of events take place and you lose yourself in the entire process. So Bhagavan says here, Siridu Asaya. The Siridu is an addition by Bhagavan, beautifully added. Siridu Asaya, tiny movement also can cause this problem. So be very, very alert. Don't even allow even a single thought to rise. Is what he says. Chittam siridu asayat samsaram. Nichalamam chitta nilai nirka mukti. Nischalaman chittam nilai nirka. When the mind becomes stable without any movement at all, that itself is mukti. Mukti is nothing. It's not somewhere, a world so far away from you that you have to go on that reach. All that is not there. This is with you all the time. Only thing is, the movement of the mind is completely covering it up. That's what Bhagavan says. Siddham idu. He says, Siddham idu. This is the final truth. In Tamil, Chittam and Siddham, they have the same spelling, so you have to be a little careful here. Here, the word is Siddham idu. This is final. This truth is final. Chittam stiramakave vendum. You need to make the Chittam as still Adalinal, because of this particular goal. Dhiman, the wise one, the one with wisdom, Dhiman, Paramam Prajnayinal Par. So you need to use consciousness in order to control the mind and make it still. It's very strange because we think that when we make the mind still, then that is an experience of consciousness. But here, what Ishvara says, and this is what Bhagavan also says, use consciousness to control the mind. It's so very interesting to know this. How do we use consciousness to control the mind, and why is it so? Because Bhagavan says that making use of the mind to control the mind is very difficult, because a thought in the mind, a sankalpam in the mind that I will control the mind is not going to work, because it's still a mental activity. And in one place he says, it is like, making a thief a policeman and asking him to catch the thief. He won't do that. So a thought within the mind that says that I have to control the mind is not going to work. So what is going to work? He says, follow Atma Vicharam. Atma Vicharam is, you do not confront the mind, you do not face the mind directly, but look away from the mind. Ignore the mental activities, ignore the thoughts. Just be alert enough to see that the thought is rising. Be alert, saying that I have to withdraw attention from this. So, prajnaya alpar, prajnaya paraya buddha is Ishvara's word. Control the mind by making use of consciousness. That is, withdraw attention from the thought and keep this attention on this I consciousness, the subject I, your conscious presence, which is available to you all the time. It goes by various names. It is an I thought, it is an I consciousness, it is the subject I, and all these things. But whatever it is, you know this, because this presents itself to you all the time. The fact of being an I is known to you all the time. The knowledge of I is the primary knowledge. All other knowledge comes after you know you are. So catch hold of that and put your attention on this I. Sadhu calls it the self-attention. The subject is caught hold of. The first person is held in your attention. So by doing this, you are using the conscious part of the mind, the conscious part of the ego, in order to control the mind. Mind is a combination of two things. It is a combination of consciousness and non-consciousness, or jadatvam. Aham, idam. I and this. Together they come. It is always a composite mixture. In all our dealings, we can see this. The I is always in the background, but the I is attached to something all the time. It's attached to maybe a thought, attached to a feeling, attached to some opinion, attached to some external world, or attached to a sensation in the body, or whatever the senses are presenting to you. It is always attached to something. So in this particular technique, what Bhagavan is suggesting is, this aham idam composite mixture, you try to isolate the aham and then place your attention on the aham constantly, relentlessly. This is the operative method. It should not be for a small, brief period of time. Brief period of time, it is possible. But relentlessly, without letting your attention wander, keep the attention on the I, on the aham vritti. When you do this, you are isolating, you are trying to break the composite mixture. This aham and idam, which is always together, you are trying to break it by removing the aham or isolating the aham, and the idam is totally ignored. So you withdraw attention and then place it in this conscious part of yourself. This is the technique. So this is what he says. When you do this, when the aham is isolated from the idam, when the I is removed from the this to which it is attached, a remarkable thing happens, both of them collapse. It is an unstable mixture. So both aham and idam, they collapse, and what it leaves as its background is that pure beingness, and that is the goal. The answer to the question, who am I, or whence am I, where from is this ego arising? The answer to all these things is diverting your attention to this beingness. This beingness is the fundamental non-dual consciousness, and from which this relative subject called as I thought arises, and along with that I thought, there is this thought, and then These two things are mixed up together and the whole of samsara comes along. So that's why he says, samsaram starts with the thought, and so be very alert to see that the thought does not really keep on expanding. Break it at some place and place your attention on this conscious subject, the I consciousness, which is an undeniable experience that everybody has, irrefutable. You cannot say that I do not exist. It's meaningless. This I is there all the time. Make use of this I. All other things are just concepts. This I is the true experience that all of us have. This is the only experience. Other experiences are added to this experience. And because of this experience, all other things are also illumined. We consider other things are all experiences, but they're just appearances in this consciousness. This I alone is the experience. So catch hold of that experience. This is conscious part. Catch hold of that, and using prajna, you try to see the mind's activities are reduced. So the method is not to confront the mind. They say, the legendary Vali in Ramayana, I believe he has this particular power. Whoever stands before him, half his strength comes to Vali. So the person who is standing before him uses his strength, and Vali gains all the strength and he defeats him all the time. Mind is like that. You try to confront the mind, you will not be successful at all. Look away from the mind. Look to the source of the mind. So Bhagavan keeps on saying that this dhyanam, the process of meditation which makes use of mind, is a process by which you get concentration. It is very, very important. He is not downgrading meditation in any manner. Meditation is very, very useful because the mind gets the ability to concentrate on any one thing. But vicharam is something different. Meditation is a process which will keep the mind active. However good the object of meditation is, the mind is kept active. Better than that would be to completely make the mind inactive, ignore the mind, and look to the source of yourself, and that is vicharam. And that is going to be really the direct path, and every time this is successful. This is a gentler path, says Bhagavan. Because we hear of so many things, people trying to meditate, concentrate on a very, very intense manner, they get into all kinds of problems. Yachammal had this problem. Bhagavan used to say, why are you doing all these things? Kind of very tibra meditation, tibra dhyana. All that is not required. Use the gentler technique. The other technique, the cow herd really forces the cow to move in the direction that he wants. But here, the cow herd, which is yourself, you are enticing the mind, giving it some incentives to go back to the self. Because once it tastes the self, nature, it will not move away later on. So the pure bliss that results will always be a great incentive for you to do that. So that's why he says here, prajnaya paraya buddhaha, using the consciousness. You try to see that the mind is completely made still. If not, samsaram will begin. So samsaram is basically the activity of the mind. It is not a crowded place. What is making it as a crowded place is the mind. When the mind is active, even in the most secluded place, in a corner of Himalayas, in a cave, also you are in samsara because the mind is active. But people like Bhagavan, the jnanis, even though they are in the midst of a large amount of crowd, how many people used to come and then go every day in Ramanashram to have a darshan of Bhagavan? But he was still in ekantam. He was still in solitude. Because mind is all that makes the difference between ekantam, solitude, and a crowded place, the samsaram. So samsaram has to be understood in this manner. Wherever the mind is active, that is samsaram. Even the slightest bit of tiniest movement of mind, you've got to be watchful about that. Watch out for that. And then see that the mind is withdrawn from wherever it is trying to catch hold of and put it back. Atma samstham manakritva na kinchidapi chintayet, and you do that repeatedly. Withdraw attention from the thought, withdraw attention from the mind or any of the object that is clinging to, withdraw it every time and place it in the heart. Do it repeatedly, you will gain confidence, and that is the abhyasam, says Bhagavan. And that is the crux of the verse, 10th verse. The 11th verse is again about this ekantam. Ekantikam sukam yatra tataiva atyantikam bhavet nishkarmani pare tatve kona ranjati pandita. Beautiful sloka. Ekantikam sukam, the sukam, the pleasure, the happiness that one derives from being in the solitude, that itself can be made into be an infinite thing. When the mind becomes still, that is the real ekantam. And that's the sukham that one gets from when the mind is still, that cannot be described at all. Atyantikam sukham, he says. We have a taste of it in our deep sleep state. The happiness that is prevailing in the deep sleep state is because of the fact that the mind is not moving at all. You do not find the world, the body, the sensations, nothing at all. There is no movement of the mind also. And then we want to repeatedly enjoy the happiness of the nidra, and we prepare, so much to have a good sleep. That kind of a happiness is obtained even in the wakeful state by a jnani. Tateva atyantikam bhavet. This can be made into an infinite bliss. How do you do that? Nishkarmani pare tatve ko naranchati panditaha. This infinite happiness is discussed in Chandogya Upanishad. Narada has lost his peace of mind, he says. He goes to Sanat Kumara, one of the greatest of gurus. Narada himself goes to Sanat Kumara and says, please help me. I have read everything that is possible to read, all the Vedas, all the Agamas, all the Upagamas, everything that can be read, all the Puranas, everything I know. I know all the other Shastranas also. I know Dhanurvedam, I know Shastra Vidya, I know Astra Vidya, everything he says. I know everything, but still my mind is not peaceful. I do not know why. Then Sanat Kumara says, whatever you have read, they are just words. He brushes them all off. All these are just words. You have not really studied that thing which is going to give you infinite happiness. You are not having happiness because you have missed out on that point. What is that? Narada asks, he says that ekanta sukham. And how does he define this ekantam? Sanat Kumara says, yatra nanyat pashyati, na anyat pashyati. The place where you do not see other. Na anyat shrunoti. You do not hear any other. Only you are there. Na anyat vijanati. You don't even know about the existence of anything else. You know only your own existence and nothing else apart from that. That is the place which will give you the highest happiness. And that is called as Bhuma, he says. Bhuma means this infinite, perfect beingness. Yatra nanyat pashyati, nanyat shrunoti, nanyat vijanati, sa bhuma. Yatra, he continues, anyat pashyati, the moment there is another coming into your vision. Yatra anyat pashyati, anyat shrunoti, anyat vijanati, so alpaha. He says it's alpam, insignificant. So whatever you have read so far is just insignificant because They're all read with the mind, understood by the intellect, and so on and so forth. You have crowded everything. And there is so much of a Shastra Jnanam, you have missed out on the primary thing. So alpaha, alpe sukam nasti, he says. In alpam, the insignificant thing that we have in this world, there is no sukam at all. Bhuma eva sukam, he concludes. Bhuma eva sukam. If you really want sukam, that infinite state of ekantam, only you are there. Ekatva darshanam. Only you are there and nothing else. The other, the knowledge of the other is absent because that is, you have established in that non-dual consciousness. So this is Bhuma, he says. This is known as Bhuma Vidya. This particular Vidya is Bhuma Vidya. We may remember in Ashtotram, Vishwanath Swami says about Bhagavan, Bhuma Vidya Visharadaha, Ardha Vidya Prakashakaha, Bhuma Vidya Visharadaha. These are all the names Vishwanath Swami has given to Bhagavan. This Bhuma Vidya. Same Sanat Kumara, there is a story that same Sanat Kumara manifested as Lord Subramanya, who again came as Jnana Sambandha Murti, Kumarila Bhatta, and then finally as Bhagavan himself. So anyway, coming back, Nishkarmani Pare Tattve, when this infinite happiness, when the state of oneness is with you, another thing happens, there is nothing for you to do there. This Nishkarmani Pare Tattve, Kona Ranjati Panditaha, says Ishvara. Who will not really enjoy this state of total inaction? Non-action. Inaction has got a derogatory meaning. So non-action, he does not feel compelled to do anything at all. Nashtamana Sotkrishta Yoginaha, Utkrishta Yoginaha, Krityamasti Kim. What is it that he has to do? Swasthithim Yataha. He is in his sthiti, Swarupa sthiti. For him, there is nothing to do. Because of what? Nashtamanasaha. He has lost his mind. When you lose that mind, that state of no otherness develops. That ekanta sukham happens, and that ekanta sukham, there is no compulsion for you to do anything. And isn't that the greatest of sukham? Yes, Ishvara asks, Kona Ranjati Panditaha. A wise one who will not enjoy, who will not, like to taste the sukham called Naishkarmya Sukham. Bhagavan's translation, Anda Ekandattu Adayum Sukham Aduve Antamila Atyanta Anandam. That Sukham, in that oneness, state of oneness, that is infinite bliss. All the Upanishads talk about. In Taittiriya Upanishad, there is an entire chapter, Brahmananda Valli, all about Anandam only. And finally it says, a Jnani's Anandam is the only Anandam that is worth seeking, because it is, in fact, there is a multiplication that is involved there. Manusha Sukham, Deva Sukham, like that. It goes on multiplying on thousand times this, 1,000 times that, and finally, that Brahmananda Sukham, it is infinite. And all the Upanishads talk about Aduve Atyanta Anandam. Yenda Karumamum il Apparatil Katravanam Yardan Ramittiduvan Ni Isai. You tell me, he's asking Parvati Devi, you tell me, who will not really go after this particular Aishkarmya Sukham? A place where you don't have to do anything at all. Even for us, we'll be rid of all our tensions if we don't have to do anything at all. So 5 days we work very hard, and we look forward to 2 days of, place, a time when we can relax. But then unfortunately, the mind makes you take a holiday during that time, go this way or that way, and the tension continues. Constantly planning for this or that. We really do not know that sukham of not having to do anything except during our sleep. And we do not even consider sleep as an important phase of our lives. We just completely ignore it. It is a state of unawareness, we say, and we ignore it. But that is the only time when this Atyanta Sukham is enjoyed by us, of course, unconsciously. how to enjoy it consciously is what books of this nature they tell us. So this Naishkarmya Sukham, Bhagavan talks about it. Krityamastikim in Upadesha Saram. What does he have to do? Even in Arunachala Aksharamanamale, he says, Sombiyai. He uses a word, Sombi. Sombi is a lazy one. Sombiyai, Summa, just being still. Sukam undu urangida. He says, Sukam undu. Consuming bliss all the time. Sukam undu urangida. Solverangati Arunachala. Can there be any state greater than this? Yes. There's an interesting incident in Bhagavan's life. Bhagavan, normally, whenever a new pen or a pencil or some such thing is given, Bhagavan, I believe, either would write, we always put our name, we do our signature when we get a new pen. Bhagavan used to write Arunachalavasi, or I believe he used to write in Telugu, Panileni Vadu. Panileni Vadu in Telugu means one who does not have any work at all. In fact, the word for it in Tamil is Sombi, the lazy fellow. So he used to write lazy fellow as his signature. And this is recorded by Ganeshan. It seems Devaraja Mudaliyar used to tease Nagamma, Suri Nagamma, that she is Bhagavan's Telugu secretary and Muruganar is Bhagavan's Tamil secretary. Nagamma was a very sensitive person, so she really did not understand the humor behind the whole thing. So she used to react to all these things. And one day she complained to Bhagavan. Bhagavan, Devaraja Mudaliyar is always calling me by this name. I am your secretary. How can he call me that? Kind of a thing. So it seems Balrama Reddy was there at that time. It seems he said, Bhagavan has no work at all. When somebody has no work, why should he have a secretary? It seems Nagammal was very happy with that answer and everybody laughed and so on. And another thing is, it seems when Muruganar wrote the commentary on Aksharamanamali, he came up to this verse, Sombiyai Chumma, Sukamundurangidar, Solverangati Arunachala, and he was writing a commentary. Bhagavan went through the commentary, and it seems he asked Muruganar, see, the same word, Sombi, in worldly matters, when we call somebody as a lazy fellow, it is done in a derogatory and insulting manner. A fellow is a lazy fellow, does not do anything at all. But in the spiritual sense, it has got the highest significance. So he told him in Tirumular also, Tirumandiram also, written by Tirumular, there are number of verses. In one verse, he really uses the same word. And then he told Muruganar, include this in your commentary. Bhagavan himself said, include this in your commentary. I'll just read it out from Tirumandiram. Tirumular says, Sombar irupadu suddha veliyile. Sombar kidappadum suddha veliyile. Sombar unarvu shruti mudindidam. Sombar kanda shrutikkan tukame. He says, the lazy ones, that is, the spiritually lazy ones. The difference between a spiritually lazy person that Bhagavan is referring to and an ordinary lazy person is, an ordinary lazy person in the worldly sense, he does not want to do any work, but he wants others to do work for him. He expects something from others to keep him in a very comfortable manner, he wants to have a comfortable life. He wants others to work for him. He himself may not be interested in doing any work. But a jnani, the spiritually lazy person, he does not expect anything from anybody at all. That is the difference. Even if he has to go hungry, he will go hungry. It does not really bother about anything. If even one kind of a pleasure is missed out by the normal lazy one, he will flare up and show anger and other thing. So a jnani has no expectations and he has no compulsion to do any work whatsoever. That is the Naishkarmya Siddhi, the Siddhi that comes from not having the urge to do anything, that non-action, the state of non-action. Sombar irupadu, these lazy ones, the place where they dwell, Shuddha Veliyile, in that pure conscious space. Sombar Kidappadum Shuddha Veliyile, they rest in that Shuddha Veli. Sombar Unarvu, their consciousness is the place where all the Vedas have gone up to that place, not able to proceed further, not able to describe that state, and they come back. They abandon their effort to describe that. In that space, beyond the Vedas knowledge, all these great ones, they have their unarvu, they have their prajna in that place. Sombar unarvu, Shruti mudindidam, Sombar kandar, Shrutikkan tukame. The great state of the Somberis, all the people, lazy ones, is that state where it is total awareness combined with total stillness. That is what is the tukam that is mentioned, the sushupti or the sleep, deep sleep that is mentioned here. They take their repose in that state of pure awareness coupled with pure stillness of the mind. So Bhagavan told Muruganar, you please include this. Actually, inspired by Bhagavan's this particular prompt, in Guru Vachaka Kovai, Muruganar wrote something about the same lazy ones. He says about himself, Summa irundolirum sombal sorupa nilai. Summa irundu olirum sombal swarupa nilai. One's true nature is to be still, shining as pure being. That is one's true nature. Amma nilayadu. Manilai, Manilai, Mahanilai. The great state. Amma nilayadu Dhanana nilai. The great state where one remains as oneself. There is no movement from being oneself. He just does not swerve from that state, stays put in that state. Dhanana nilai. Arun Tavattalandri Adai Arum. Achombal Kurundinor Punniyarai Potru, he says. Muruganar says, you should worship these lazy ones because this is not obtained except through very rare tapas. Arum, Adai Arum, Achombal Kurundinar. Great tapas alone will take you to the Arun Tavattalandri Adai Arum, Achombal Kurundinar Punniyarai Potru. This is there in Guru Vachaka Kovai. I think verse 774 or some such thing. So here when Bhagavan, when Ishvara says that Nishkarmani pare tatve konaranjati panditaha, who will not enjoy that? When you don't have to do anything at all because you are consuming bliss all the time without any action, any compulsion to act. That is the state. That is the state. That is the effect. That is the result of the mind becoming still, totally still. When the mind becomes totally still, as Bhagavan says, Nashta Manasa Utkrishta Yoginaha. When the mind goes, the doer goes. There is an absence of doership, total doership. No, the Jnani will not claim that he has done anything at all. That is the state we aim for. Yes, Ishvara. The 12th verse, Nimritto Vishaya Jnanat Nishkala Jnana Tatparaha Anichannapi Medhavi Labhate Moksha Makshayam. He says, Vishaya Jnanam Poi. Vishaya Jnanam is the knowledge that one acquires through the mind. There is a subject and there is an object, and this object is known by the subject. This kind of a knowledge is called as Kshaya Jnanam. This is objective consciousness, called as Suttarivu. There is another. Always there is another. And you would like to know what that other is, the nature of the other is. It is Vishaya Jnanam. Vishaya Jnanam Poi. This knowledge of the other has to go. Viri Nishkalamai. When this Jnanam goes, what happens is there is an expanse of Nishkala Jnanam, pure Jnanam, pure knowledge, is the result when the knowledge of the other goes, the Vishaya Jnanam goes. Vishayamil Jnanan, Jnana Paran, Idum Adaya Avayinan. A person who has completely rid himself of this Vishaya Jnanam, even if he does not want mukti, mukti will come to him. That's what it says here. Anichannapi, even when he does not desire it, Medhavi, Bhagavan calls it as Paran, Jnana Paran. Even if he does not want moksham, moksham will be thrust on him. Because the basic condition has been fulfilled. The basic condition is he has completely lost the knowledge of the other. There is no other for him. Nanyat pashyati anyat nasti. That the place where there is no anya, when that particular state develops in you, there is only one, and that is yourself, and you do not know anything other than yourself. When that knowledge comes, it is enough. And he does not even have to worry about mukti or moksha. It will be thrust on him. The release from all these things will automatically be thrust on him. So he says here, Anichannapi medhavi labhate moksham akshayam. Akshayam is something that is not going to decay at all, something that is permanent all the time. That kind of a jnanam will come to you, and then you will naturally attain mukti. In the case of Bhagavan, maybe this is a description of what happened to Bhagavan. Bhagavan did not make an effort to get into that state of mukti. He did not even know what mukti was, moksha. He has not heard about the word Brahman also. Not religious, not inclined to do anything. An ordinary boy, a playful boy. What he did on that day, when this experience came to him, what he did on that day was completely he withdrew attention from everything outside of himself, because he thought he was going to die and he wanted to know who is it that dies. This is something that does not come to us at all. For him it came, this thought, who is it that dies? And he says, as we know, he gives the description of what happened to him at that time. Lay down on the floor, made his body like a corpse, he says. How do you make the body like a corpse? By completely withdrawing attention from every sensation in the body. It felt like a corpse. And he said to himself, now rigor mortis has come. They will anytime remove this body and take it to the crematorium. All this drama was so realistic for him, he withdrew the attention completely from the outside world. That is what is difference between our Atma Vicharam, the way he did it just for those seconds. Nivritto, the word Nivritto means withdrawing attention, withdrawing the awareness from Vishaya Jnanat. When you do this, Nishkala Jnana Tatparaha, what comes to you is that one knowledge. What remained there at the time? Know that this body is dead. They are going to take it to the crematorium and burn it. But with the death of this body, am I dead? And he focused intensely within himself. That's what he says. There was a fascinating attention on one's own self at that time. Everything was withdrawn. And all that awareness was kept on that single feeling of I did not want moksham. But within this few minutes or whatever, he reached the state of mukti. That intense attention within himself, when he rose up from that experience, when he got up from that experience, he was a totally changed person. The personality had dropped off completely. He had no identity with the body from then on. He did not even know what it was. He did not have a name for it. He used to think that somebody has possessed me. Avesham, use the word Avesham in Tamil, possession. Yes, he was possessed by Brahman, and the word he knew much later. Is what happened to him. So, anichan api, even though you do not want it, it will be thrust upon you because you have done the basic thing, that is withdrawing the attention from the world, from the body, from the mind, from everything, and focusing only on that internal knowledge. I am, I am, I am. That's all one had to do. And this happens. And this is what happened to Bhagavan. That's why I don't know whether there is any parallel to what happened to Bhagavan, the spiritual world. And he demonstrated it to us that all these things that are talked about, the Shastras, they're all absolutely real. It was a living demonstration of all the Upanishads, all the Agamas. Anichannapi medhavi labhate moksham akshayam. Bhagavan says in Upadesha Saram, he does not use the word nivritto, but he says the same thing in a different way. Drishyavaritam chittam. Drishyavaritam. He uses a word instead of Vishayam, he uses the word Drishyam. It is the same thing. What is seen, what is perceived, that is Vishayam. Drishyavaritam. Putting a stop to getting attached to the Drishyas. Drishyavaritam chittam. Chittam is prevented from attaching to all the Drishyas. Atmanas chitva darshan. Actually, because of the way in which the shloka is constructed, we recite it as Drishyavaritam chittam atmanaha. But atmanaha should be combined to the next word. Atmanas chitva darshan. One's own. Atmanaha here means one's own. One's own chitvam. One's own, the consciousness that is illuminating the mind. That's what it means. Atmanas chitva darshanam tattva darshanam. Manam tan oli uru ordale undipara. Tan oli, the mind's illumination. Manam tan oli uru, the form of light of the mind. You have to focus on the form of light of the mind by withdrawing attention from everything else. Mind has its own illumination. Something is illuminating the mind constantly. Put your attention on that. When you do that, then what happens there is Unmai Unarchiya Mundipara. Tattva Darshanam, he says in Sanskrit. This is Tattvam. You will be able to see the Tattvam, the Paramartha Tattvam, by doing this activity of pulling the mind, withdrawing the attention from everything outside of you, focusing totally inwards. So, Manam tan oli uru ordale undipara, unmai unarchiya undipara. So, I think I will just stop, I think 55 minutes or so. With this, I will conclude and we will pick up the other slokas next time. Thank you very much.